What is up, you amazing people? It is Nima, and today I want to talk about the top 10 action-adventure games on the Nintendo Switch. Now, this is just my list, and I want to make it clear that, if a game falls at number 10, for instance, doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's a really good game. There's hundreds of games that are released every year, so just to follow up on a list has to give it at least a little bit of respect. And I also want to ask you guys, if you think I missed something, let me know in the comment section down below if there's a game on your list that I didn't even mention. And again, I want to reiterate, this is just my list. So starting off at number 10 is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Now, I understand a lot of people love this franchise, and this game looks immaculate. This is also a turn for Kirby, as it's a little bit less linear, I guess. You're able to explore a little bit more. You also have the whole mouthful mode where you can change into certain objects and it helps you solve a puzzle or helps you get to a further part in the game, and it is a lot of fun. I want to be clear, I think it's a ton of fun and I really enjoy it. The only reason why this game does fall at the bottom of the list is because it was rather easy and ultimately kind of short. But I do think it's a visual masterpiece, and I absolutely enjoyed all the puzzles and the different modes that this game offered, as well as the combat not being horrible, which is rare for me to say that about a Kirby game, by the way. It was pretty fun, actually, and that's why this game comes in at number 10. Now, number 9 on the list is LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Now, this game has not just 1, 2, or 3 movies like a lot of them do. It has all of them, and it has a ton of content. This game actually looks really good as well, and so this game is also incredibly long. I mean, it would take hundreds of hours, I think, to unlock everything. There's just so many unlockables. There's so many aspects to the game, and if you're not familiar with all of the movies, it's kind of a cool way to wrap them all up. In fact, that's what I did with, the last 4. I don't know, I'm sorry. Not a Star Wars fan. I enjoy some of the aspects of Star Wars, but not most of it, to be honest. I don't really like most of the main characters. Mandalorian's cool, though. Another cool aspect is they added in skills and different ways to build up your characters, which I think is pretty cool, and a definite turn that LEGO needed when it comes to gaming, because a lot of times the LEGO games are a lot of fun and they're neat and cool, whatever, something you can sit around and play with, but there's not much growth, and so the fact that they took that turn, really cool. Now, my only problem with LEGO Star Wars is I pretty much knew most of the story or could put together the pieces, but definitely through a whole just ton of the game, I already knew what happened, so I don't know, that kind of sucks when it comes to that. Now, at number 8 is a game that I think probably should have been a little bit higher, but it really fell due to some technical issues. Now, that game is Cult of the Lamb. This game ultimately is amazing, and I think after the patches and everything that is released will be released, I'm sure they're going to take care of this game. I think it's going to be, a cult classic. Oh, I hated that. But it's still going to be a great game. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. And the fact that it's essentially 3 different game modes in one game is pretty awesome. The dungeon crawling, action-adventure aspect of going into a certain realm and fighting to either free people or to find items or to ultimately defeat the big bad is so much fun and so engaging. It also can be very difficult, also very rewarding. The aspect of kind of the sim of your own little world, your own little village, building different things to help facilitate not only your cult members, but also the progress of your cult in general. It's also really cool. And I have to say, I love the aspect of dealing with your individual cult members, where some of them, they need you to be loving and supportive and a good dude. Others need to be put in the gallows or just sacrificed. But it's a lot of fun. Like I said, the performance issues are what kind of drags this game down, because graphically the game looks really cool. I love the aesthetic. It's really cool and creative. Ultimately, like I said, falls to number 8 just because of the technical problems with it. Now, at number 7 is a game, again, I figured would be higher on my list, but just compiling my list, I agonized over where to put games, and this was one of them. But at number 7 is Blossom Tales 2. I really love this game. I had so much fun with this game, and the biggest issue I had with it, really, and why it falls where it does, is the length, the replayability, and it's formulaic. I mean, it's basically the same Zelda-like thing that we all know and love. Now, granted, we love, so that's great, and I absolutely, like I said, adore this game and can be caught dead playing this all the time. Well, I don't know if I'll be caught dead, but caught alive playing the game? Whatever. But there's a ton of exploration, a ton of collectibles, a lot of things to upgrade your character. It does take a step beyond the Zelda-like. I know I just said that it follows that formula, and it does, but it expands on it in a really impressive, amazing way. Not to mention the story is just, I don't know, it's charming. It's something that makes you I don't know, kind of give you a hope in humanity a little bit. Like, it's not as dark as all games and a lot of them, and it does have a happy little story that, does teach a little bit of a lesson. But anyway, at number 6 is another Zelda-like game. Now, this game is a game that I said was on my list for Game of the Year, and it definitely would be. It should be. It's highly, highly fun and addictive, and apparently I played a ton of it, according to the Nintendo wrap-up. But anyway, I'm talking about Ocean's Heart. Now, Ocean's Heart was so cool, and this came at a time when I really needed some more Zelda in my life. I know that, I had just played the 64 version, but let's be honest, I just need all the Zelda I can get. This game really does follow a lot of that, but with its own story, its own unique way of handling the exploration. The combat is fun. There's a ton to this that is just really great. I love the puzzles, I love the dungeons, and even the open world areas where you can run into enemies that you didn't really see coming. I love unlocking different equipment, and this is just one of those games that I think visually looks really good. It's not, gonna be your AAA studio graphics, but it looks really good, and it fits perfect for what it is. A lot of the mechanics just run really well. Like, the game just runs and performs so well, and I love this game. Honestly, it's one of those games I think everyone should check it out. I gotta get this list going. We're only halfway through. So number 5 is Anno Mutationum, and that game is so cool. I played a ton of it. Way more than I thought I would. The exploration, the story, the combat, it's all there. And the visuals, I really love the visual style that they use for this. It's a different direction than a lot of games that I typically play, but it works so well, and I just really enjoyed it. Not to mention the fact that there's so much story that is incredibly compelling and engaging, and you pair that with insane environments, great combat, aspects of being a detective, and incredibly fun boss fights, and you have a really great game. This game I put so much more time into than I planned on. It still falls at number 5, there again, due to a few technical issues that it had that actually made me stop playing the game completely because I couldn't go any further. Now, that has been fixed, but there was just quite a few of these little glitches that happened, and so it's at number 5, which speaks highly of how good the game actually is, knowing that it does have those technical limitations. Now, number 4 on the list is none other than Bayonetta 3. This comes from Platinum Games, who always just do a great job. And they knocked it out of the park with this one too. It performs incredibly well for as fast-paced action as it is, and it brings amazing looking graphics to the Nintendo Switch in a time when people said that couldn't be done, but lo and behold, they did it. Now, this game does suffer from a few problems, and one of them happens to be repetitiveness. Some of the combat does start to, especially towards the end, starts to get a little bit repetitive, but there's also other aspects of the game that really change it up and keep it fresh. A different, Metroidvania mode, where stealth is your best friend, and a monster fight mode, which I absolutely adore. I love the old classic big giant monsters beating each other, and now you can do that. But if I'm being honest, the reason why this game didn't make it to the top, the very top, is the story. I had no idea what was going on. I understand some of that is me, but I'm not the only one. There are a ton of people who really had no idea and felt like the story was a bit nonsensical, and I have to count it against it for that. It's a really great game, and I think everyone should check it out at some point. Now we've reached the top 3, which I really can't say this enough. These games could pretty much be interchangeable for me. They'll have aspects to them that I really appreciate, and game modes that are really fun. They're creative, they look really good, they run really well, I love the characters. There's just so many things tied in with it. But at number 3 has got to be Nobody Saves the World. This is a game I feel like a lot of people forgot about. As I'm looking through all the 2022 lists and who did what did this, and how great was this, nobody's talked about Nobody Saves the World. It's such a good game, and just had DLC that released a couple months ago for $5, which expanded the game even more. The whole idea is that you are nobody. You are this just pale androgynous being that can transform into other creatures, and from there you can build upon those creatures, who has better stats, or you can build up their abilities to where you actually borrow from other creatures, and so you could really become kind of a jack of all trades, or you can just put all of your aspects in, let's just say combat and poisoning, and there's different abilities and skills that can complement that you can add and go back, and the story itself is really cool. It's funny, it's got that hint of, I don't know, we know it's kind of a silly game, but at the same time brings a sense of tension, and I think that's told through the environments and through the enemies, and definitely through the bosses. As you go further and further in the game, you really want to see how it all unfolds, see how it plays out, because the story is really, really good. The game also performs incredibly well, especially for what you're asking a game to do. Ultimately, like I said, this game could be 1 to 3. This is one of my most played games of 2022, and I just love it. Number 2 on my list is a game that I think I don't know, I would have given Game of the Year. I've been looking forward to this game ever since it announced it. There's just so much to say about it that I can't explain why it's only number 2 on this list. And trust me, I have to use it for something else, so maybe it wins that award. We'll find out. But number 2 on my list is Tunic. Tunic is fantastic. It creates its own language, for God's sakes. Not to mention the exploration. It's like you stepped into a whole new world. The art style that they use, especially in handheld mode on the Switch, looks really, really good. It doesn't take anything away from what the original Xbox version has. I think, the combat in itself, it starts off really tricky. As you learn to master it, though, you get better and better. It does give you like that Zelda-like feel, but just with so much more depth and so much more appreciation for what your character is able to do and all the powers that your character is able to collect. As you go further and further in this game, you still aren't really sure what the big bad is. Who's the boss? Why are these things all angry at you, essentially? And finding out and going further, I can say it has an ending that is remarkable. Completely remarkable. Changes so much of your thoughts on the original format that you stepped into, that original game and mindset that you probably stepped into as you were looking at like a Ganon or somebody being the big enemy. But no, the game surprises you at every turn. Even the fact that, again, the manual itself is something that you kind of have to unlock, and as well as the language to understand everything in the manual and to understand a lot of journal entries and things of that nature. I love Tunic. Tunic is so good. It's a game that I'm actually currently 100%ing when I get the chance. It's far and few between, it seems like, anymore, but this game is so good, and for the price as well. I think this is a game that everyone should pick up. It's so good. So what could possibly beat that game? I mean, I'm talking about how this is maybe one of my favorite games of all time. What could beat that? Well, as far as action adventure, story, performance, graphics, I have to say there was a game that I saw an indie direct for, and I saw it for about a half a second, and I was like, oh, this game looks stupid. I'm not going to get it. And then a lot of people started reporting that this game is really fun, so I had to check it out, and that is Neon White. Yeah, I have to give it to Neon White. It's not my type of game typically, but the fact that it allows me to gain access to this world of speedrunning, of platforming, like super difficult platforming. And if that didn't tick off enough of my negative marks, it's also a card-based game. So your movement is based upon the cards that you have. Not all movement, but in many ways it controls your ability to platform, your weapons, things of that nature are all tied in with what cards you have. So across the board, this is not my game, but wow, it gave me the access to enjoy it. And I have to really give it to a game that can come out of such a negative place for me and to end up being one of my favorite games of the year. And really, it's all tied in too with an amazing story that has you meeting characters that you've met before, mysteries as to why certain characters act the way they do and how you knew them, and this also comes at a time when you're in competition with all of them. You see, you're dead. You died. And whoever wins this competition, who kills the most enemies, essentially gets the furthest along in the game, you move on and you're no longer trapped in hell anymore. So all of that's taking place at once. It would seem like this game is incredibly complex and difficult and all of those things. And it is. But it's also really fun. And it allows, like I said, for the 5th time in a row, it's incredibly accessible. And it has different sim aspects as well, as you can get gifts and things like that for people and earn their favor a little bit more. Unlock some cutscenes with them that you hadn't seen before, and that opens up the game even more. I also have to say this game ends up being really funny as well. So, people like your boss, your main, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's kind of your boss, gives you directions. He's hilarious in so many ways. There's just so many aspects of this game that I think it deserves number 1. It deserves people playing it. Even if people look at it and they're like, this looks too difficult, this looks too weird, it's not my style of game. Trust me, I've had that exact same feeling, and look where it falls on my list. Number 1 of the best action adventure games on Nintendo Switch. But that's my thoughts. I'm curious what your thoughts are down below. Please let me know. And like always, guys, I'm wishing you health, wealth, and above all, I hope you're truly happy because you make me happy. Take care, everyone. Bye. Jesus Christ, that was long. Yeah, like I wanted to talk more about Neon White because there's even more to discuss, but I got looking at the time. Like, wow. Okay, we've gone on long enough.